I wanted to make a quick video for you about some really important perspective from the buyer side when they're looking at your home online that could make all the difference in the sale of your home. And that perspective is super important, but your agent may or may not be providing that experience to the buyers. So I want you to think about these points that I'm about to mention to you. Now, any buyer who is purchasing a home, this day and age, nearly every single one of them is looking at your home online first. So obviously it's incredibly important that your agent uses a professional photographer. And I still see every single week listing photos come up on really expensive homes. I don't know why, but the seller's agent doesn't use a professional photographer, and that is a huge disservice to you. So first and foremost, make sure that your agent is using a professional photographer. Then the next thing, and this is perspective I want you to have, when a buyer is online looking at homes, they're just scrolling through, looking at all the listings, that first photo is super important because that's the one and only thing that they see about your home. And if it doesn't make sense to them, it's not compelling, it's not captivating, they're just going to scroll on by. Here's a good example. Last week I was looking at some of the latest listings in Boulder. I have no idea why, but the listing agent had a very odd choice for their first photo. It was an empty room, there was no furniture in the home, and it was a little bit of a corner of a living room and a little bit of a corner of the kitchen. The walls were white, had really ugly brown trim. It just didn't make any sense, and I thought, wow, the listing agent chose this as the first photo. Obviously most buyers are going to scroll on by, but it made me wonder, is that the best photo that they had? So I was curious and I clicked on it, looked through other photos, and the house was fine. It wasn't that bad, especially outside. It had really nice landscaping. It needed some updates inside, but if that listing agent had chosen outside of the home with a nice landscaping, nice brick ranch home, it would have been way more compelling to a buyer. So once your agent hopefully uses a professional photographer but puts those photos online, don't just assume that they've done their job. You should go online as well and look at what that first photo is and make sure that that's the best first impression of your home. And then as you're looking at those photos online, I want you to make sure that the photos are in a logical order. I have no idea why, but every single week I look at listing photos that are just so random. First you see the backyard, then you see the kitchen, then you see a bedroom in the basement, then you're back to the kitchen, now you're outside. It's completely disorienting, and that is really not going to help a buyer fall in love with your home and feel like, oh, I understand the layout, this makes sense, I could see myself living here, now I want to go look at this home in person and maybe even write an offer. So as you look at those photos, make sure that they are in order, it's a logical layout of the home, and will help a buyer really understand and get a lay of the land. Now, if your house, just by those photos alone, that order doesn't seem to make sense, especially if it's an empty home. I mean, I regularly look at listing photos and I think, I don't know if this is a bedroom on the second floor, I'm not sure if it's the office on the first floor, it's really not clear. If that's a situation when you look at those photos, make sure that your listing agent is putting captions in the bottom of those photos so that it really is clear to a buyer, because you don't want a buyer to be confused and say, and not really worth my time, my mental headspace to try to figure out what's going on here. I'm just going to go look at the next photos, and then unfortunately they forget about your house. So make sure it's in order, and if it's not totally clear, make sure your agent is including some of those captions. And finally, I'd like to give you one more example. Last week I was looking at a listing. It was actually for a rental, but unfortunately this home was listed as a 2-bedroom home, and it really sort of technically had 3 because there was an office on the first floor, it had a closet under the stairs, but so not only did it say it was a 2-bedroom home, the photos were completely out of order, nothing was labeled, and the description of the home, it didn't even say that it had an office. So especially during the time of COVID, a lot of people are working at home. They're going to need space more than ever. So unfortunately, some people might have said, I really need an office, or I need a 3rd bedroom, and all of those potential renters, they just moved on past that listing. So again, to summarize this, you really want to think about things from the buyer's perspective and make sure that first impressions really count and that they can really understand your home online first before then deciding to go hopefully see it in person. And to do that, you want to make sure that your listing agent is using a professional photographer, and then once your home is online, you need to go and look at those photos and make sure everything makes sense. Best of luck in selling your home. I hope this video helps.